Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing an Orcust deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is a deck that I really love, especially with all the different engines that you can throw into this deck to make it really good. And hopefully on the next couple of ban lists we do get Harpour back at 1, but for now we're going to be playing the deck like this, and it's a really fun build to be able to play with because it can get you upwards of 4 negations on your side of the field depending on how you play your hand, which is really awesome, as you guys will definitely see in test hand. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below where we have awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hand. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. So Girsu is a really awesome card in the deck that basically what he does is if he's normal or special summon, then you get to send an Orcust or a World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. And if there are 2 more cards in this card's column, then you treat this card as a tuner as well. And if you control no other monsters, you can special summon a World Legacy token, machine type, level 1/0/0 to both players' fields in defense position, which comes in kind of handy, but the big effect is being able to send something from your deck to the graveyard. We then play 3 copies of the Orcust Nightmare. So Orcust Nightmare is a really awesome card for the deck because it has the ability that it cannot be destroyed by battle with a link monster, and you can manage this card from your graveyard to target one face-up monster on the field, and then you can't special summon monsters except for dark monsters for the rest of the turn, and also you send 1 dark machine monster from your deck to the graveyard except another copy of itself, and then you get to the target gains attack equal to the level of the monsters into the graveyard times 100. So that attack boost is not that big of a deal, but sending a card from deck to graveyard is really important because you can do stuff like normal summon Girsu, then use Girsu's effect to send your copy of Orcust Nightmare to graveyard, and then use Nightmare's effect to banish, and then send to your graveyard a copy of World Wand, which we play as a 2 of in the deck, and then use World Wand to revive your copy of your Nightmare back to your side of the field, because World Wand has the ability you can banish it from your graveyard to target one of your banished Orcust monsters, and then special summon it to your side of the field. But for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon anything but dark monsters, but you don't really play anything but dark monsters in the deck anyways, so it's not that big of a deal for the dark attribute restriction. You don't play anything in the extra deck that's not dark anyways. Then we play 1 copy or 2 copies of Symbol Skeleton. 2 copies of Symbol Skeleton is really good too because you banish this card from your graveyard to target another Orcust monster in your graveyard and special summon that monster to your side of the field, which is a really good effect. 1 copy of Brass Bombard. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon a Orcust monster from your hand, which is a really good effect as well, just to get you an additional monster on your side of the field, especially if you open up a copy of Orcust Nightmare and you have Brass Bombard, and you can send Brass Bombard to the graveyard and then special summon out your copy of the Orcust Nightmare, or use this as a link material to get out your copy of the Orcust Nightmare out of your hand. Because the only time that this deck ever bricks is when you get a copy of Orcust Nightmare in your hand or World Wand in your hand, because then you have to get them out of your hand with stuff like your copies of Dark Grepher and other cards like that, or your danger monsters. We then play a single copy of Gizmek Orochi. Gizmek Orochi is basically just kind of like an Orcust monster anyways. It has a really good effect because if this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can quick effect banish 8 off the top of your deck face down, and you can special summon this card. And then you can also banish 3 from your extra deck face down, and then target one face of monster on the field and destroy it. It's a 2450 dark machine monster, which is a really good effect and a really good card to have in your deck, just to give you another special summon. We then play 2 copies of Rocket Tracer. We do play a small rocket package in the deck because Rocket Tracer is really good because it lets you quick effect target one face-up card you control and destroy it. And if you do, you can special summon a rocket monster from your deck, except another copy of itself, but you can't special summon anything but dark monsters for the rest of the turn. And then we play a copy of Magna Rocket Dragon. Magna Rocket Dragon is just an additional special summon that you get off the copy of your Rocket Tracer, but I like to play the 1 copy of Magna Rocket because sometimes you want to special summon more than 1 from the deck at a given time, and I do play a copy of Rocket Recharger. These are really good cards to play in the deck along with your copy of Rocket Tracer, but I like to play 2 in my build because if you do special summon or draw out a copy of Rocket Recharger or Magna Rocket, you're going to be out of special summons because you have to special summon something other than Rocket Tracer. And also with your copies of Quick Launch, you want to have additional monsters to special summon if you do go through your copies of Rocket Tracer in the deck. So I like to play 2 extra ones, so I play Magna Rocket and Rocket Recharger. We then play a small Phantom Knight package, which is a single copy of Ancient Cloak and a single copy of Silent Boots. These are basically for Bardies, so you can establish Fogblade to get those negates I was talking about at the beginning of the video. But these are very important combo pieces that you're going to send from deck to graveyard, or even search the copy of Phantom Boots to be able to, or Silent Boots to be able to summon it to your side of the field. It's a really important card to play both of these, because sometimes I'll end with a copy of Bardige, and I'll special summon this to link away with one of my Orcust monsters to go into Galatea. So this is very important to play as at least a one of each. And you can also special summon this out if you have a copy of the Shade Brigandine on your side of the field, or if you have the copy of your Phantom Knight Rusty Bardige on your side of the field. So for the other monsters we play in the deck, we're playing a single copy of Dark Grepher. Dark Grepher is really important for the deck because Dark Grepher helps out a lot. And being able to send one of your level 5 or higher dark monsters, which is these up here, these 5 from your hand to the graveyard, special summon it to your side of the field. And then you can send a dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to send a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect, just to be able to get you an additional monster out of your hand and into the graveyard, because all of your Orcust monsters use their effects in the graveyard, except for Mech Knight Orcust. We then play a single copy of Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight, when it's normal summoned, it sends or when it's summoned at all, you get to send a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect because your entire deck is dark. We play a single copy of Nessie because it gives you an additional monster on the field, and if it's discarded to the graveyard, you get to add a danger card from your deck to your hand. One Tsuchinoko or Danger Noodle. Tsuchinoko is really good because if it's discarded, it special summons itself. And a copy of Jackalope as well. If it's discarded, then you get to special summon a danger monster from your deck. You just play 1, 1, and 1 because they're the best ones, and you really only need these 3 in this particular build anyways, because you're going to be using them as link material to go into Galatea or Rusty Bardige. So that's pretty much it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we are going to be playing a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army, because you're going to be able to search your copy of your Armageddon Knight, your copy of Dark Grepher, or your Phantom Knight monsters. This is a really good card in the deck to be able to add those cards from deck to hand. One copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn just really helps out in the deck a lot to be able to extend your plays. Same thing with World Legacy Succession. Since it's a primary link-based deck, this card is going to be super helpful in the deck to be able to get your exact monster you need onto your side of the field as quickly as possible. One copy of Foolish Burial. All of your Orcust monsters, again, use their effects in the graveyard, so this is a very important combo piece for the deck. Call by the Grave is a one of, because Call by the Grave just stops our opponent's hand traps, which is super helpful. One copy of Instant Fusion, basically another copy of Call by the Grave, because you're trying to stop your opponent so you can go into your full back row negation, which is super nice to be able to get on your side of the field. But using this card with Millenniumizer Restrict is really nice, because you can get Millenniumizer Restrict, a copy of Fogblade, or 2 copies of Fogblade and Orcust Crescendo on your side of the field, and then you're really set for the rest of the duel, because you're going to be able to stop at least 3 cards against your opponent. And if you have Call by the Grave, you're going to be able to stop a hand trap too. So you're essentially getting 4 to 5 negates with your copy of Instant Fusion, Call by the Grave, and your back row as well. So you have plenty of plays to go off with. We play 2 copies of Orchestrated Return. Orchestrated Return is just a draw card in the deck that basically lets you send an Orcust or a World Legacy card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then you get to draw 2 cards, which is super helpful because this card never goes minus, because you're basically sending a card that you're going to use in the graveyard to the graveyard so you can then pop off with it later. One copy of Orchestrated Babel, which makes all of your Orcust monsters quick effects, basically, which is a really cool thing, because it has the ability that you can activate this card. The activated effects of your Orcust monsters in your graveyard or of your Link monsters can be activated as quick effects, which is a really good effect just to be able to get them off on your opponent's turn. You play a single copy of Boot Sector Launch because it's searchable with Striker Dragon, and it helps you get additional plays because it's like a really good field spell Monster Reborn, because you can instantly link away a copy of Rocket Tracer, Magna Rocket, or your Rocket Recharger to the graveyard to be able to get off this effect, to get Striker Dragon on your field to then search this, and then you can use this effect that if your opponent controls more monsters than you can special summon any rocket monsters with different names from your graveyard in defense position. So if you have multiple rockets in the graveyard, this can be like a soul charge, which is really insane. And then we play 3 copies of Quick Launch. Quick Launch is insanely good in the deck because it lets you special summon a rocket monster from the deck, usually Rocket Tracer, which then is going to lead into a copy of another rocket monster, and then it's going to lead into a copy of your rocket or your Striker Dragon, which is going to get this, and then you're going to link both the Striker Dragon and the monster on your side of the field to the graveyard, and then go into a Galatea, which then you can use this to revive back your 2 in the graveyard if your opponent has more monsters than you do, which is really helpful. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're only going to be playing 4 traps in the deck, which is a single copy of Crescendo, 1 copy of the Shade Brigandine, and 2 copies of Fogblade. This is pretty much all you need for the trap lineup, because these are going to negate monster effects. These are going to be able to special summon out a copy of a level 4 monster, which is going to be itself. And then Crescendo is really good because it's searchable and it negates a spell trap monster effect while you control an Orcust Link monster, and then you negate the activation if you do banish that card as well. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to add from your deck to your hand a Dark Machine monster that's banished or in your deck, then you can't special summon monster the rest of turn except for Dark Machines, which is not that big of a deal, because banishing this card, you're going to probably add like a Gizmek Orochi to be able to special summon to your side of the field, and then you're going to get a pop off of this as well with the Gizmek, which is really nice. But this particular lineup is all you need for back road, in my opinion. The only thing I've considered throwing in here is Solemn Judgment to kind of back up the Orcust Crescendo and the Fog Blades to make it more of a control-based deck, but it's totally up to you how you play it. I like this particular build because you're swarming the field and being able to like OTK your opponent a little bit with like Access Code and stuff like that, or other monsters like that, or Boral Sword, I mean, because you don't play Access Code because you only play Dark in the extra deck. So that's it for the traps, guys. Let's get into the extra deck, and that is actually it for the entire main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Galatea. Galatea is one of the best cards in the entire deck because it has the ability that if this card is linked, it can't be destroyed by battle, which is really easy to actually link this card, because with your Rusty Bardige, as you guys will, I've already recorded test hands for this, so you guys will see it in the test hands, but this card can actually really easily point to your copy of Rusty Bardige, and you can end with this Crescendo and 2 Fog Blades in the back row, which is 3 negates pretty easily. And then this can't be destroyed by battle, which is really cool. But this link card cannot be destroyed by battle, which is really cool that it just protects it. And then during your opponent's turn, you can go into a copy of the Orcust Link monster or Orcust Extra Deck monster, which is Dingirsu. You can go to Dingirsu and then protect your copy of Galatea, or pop a card because of your copy of your Shade Brigandine, or not Shade Brigandine, but your copy of Rusty Bardige, which is really, really nice. So what it basically does is when it's linked summon, it can't be destroyed by battle if it's linked, and then you can target one of your banished machine monsters and shuffle it into the deck, and then you can set an Orcust spell or trap, which is usually Crescendo that you're going to set on your side of the field. One copy of Longirsu, you don't really go into him that much because he's really good, but he's not that great to go into. Usually you're just going to end with Galatea, and you're going to end with a copy of Rusty Bardige, but you still need him as a one-of, because this link card cannot be destroyed by card effects, and then you can target 2 of your banished machine monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and then you can send a linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard, and this card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. So he's pretty good at just a spot removal, but I usually just summon Galatea and Rusty. We then play 2 copies of Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. Dingirsu is really good because you're going to overlay him on top of your copy of Galatea, and when he's overlaid, you can send a card your opponent controls to the graveyard, which is really, really powerful. And if your cards are going to be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can just detach a material from him instead, which is pretty good, just to be able to detach a card from him, just to protect your stuff. We play a single copy of Boral Sword because it's a dark monster and helps you OTK in the deck, and it makes the deck a little bit more budget instead of playing Access Code. We play a single copy of Rusty Bardige because it's probably the single best card in the entire extra deck outside of Galatea, because the main ones you're going to be summoning is this and Galatea all the time. And it searches your copies of your Phantom Knight spells or traps, and it sends a Phantom Knight from deck to graveyard. So essentially this card is a 2-card Fog Blade, or you get 2 Fog Blades off of this, which is really nice. 1 copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, a copy of IP because you can go IP into Unicorn during your opponent's turn and then bounce their field, which is super nice. 1 copy of Striker Dragon because it searches Boot Sector when you link into it using a level 4 dragon monster, which is always going to be your copies of your Rocket Tracer, Magna Rocket, or Rocket Recharger. 1 copy of Millenniumize because you can summon this with your copy of Instant Fusion. 1 copy of our Arc Rebellion. Arc Rebellion is kind of a weird one for you guys, but I like playing it in this deck. It's super weird, but it comes up where you can actually put 2 level 4s on your side of the field with a copy of Rocket Recharger, or Rocket with a copy of Mech Knight, and then you normal summon Mech Knight, send something to graveyard, and then if you leave him on the field, because you can link off, and you get your Rusty Bardige, you can get your copy of your Shade Brigandine, and then use Shade Brigandine to make this card with your copy of your Mech Knight monster, or you can use one of your Rocket monsters to go into this with Shade Brigandine or the Orcust monster. So it's really easy to actually summon this with your Raiders Knight, because Raiders Knight will link into this super easily, because you'll just use Raiders Knight's effect and then detach a material and then go into this, and it can't be destroyed by card effect, so it protects itself and is a really big beat stick, which the deck I feel like kind of is lacking in making a big beat stick, and I feel like Arc Rebellion does that very nice. And then we play the same copy of Borreload Savage because you can summon it with your copy of your Rocket Tracer. And then probably the single best card in the entire extra deck is hands down the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler is ridiculous because it stacks your graveyard, and you can summon it really easily if you open up a copy of the Mech Knight Orcust, and you open up a copy of either or a quick launch. So if you open up this and you open up a copy of the Mech Knight, you can normal summon out the Mech Knight, use its effect, and then send from your deck to the graveyard the Nightmare, and then use this to summon out a copy of your Rocket Tracer. And then you use these two monsters and you synchro summon into this, and then link or send in anything you want to the graveyard, because you send the top 5 off your deck, which is going to basically stack your entire graveyard, and you get to add a card from your deck to your hand of those 5 that's a light or a dark monster, and all you play is dark monsters. So you're going to get to add any monster that you send, which is pretty nice. To be able to grab anything that you need. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck. Be on the lookout for test hands of this, because it's going to be really awesome. This deck is really fun to play with, and I'm really excited to show you guys this deck, because it's one of my favorite decks that they've kind of just hit on the ban list until it can't like play on its own anymore. Like, you have to throw in some engines in it because of our copy of Harp Horror being banned, but hopefully it comes back to one in the next couple of lists. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on the screen, come part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below so you can get all those awesome rewards, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.